My friends, before I get into the situation in our region, I need to talk about something that happened today on the other side of the world, because this really affected me, and I think it will affect you too. The images are here. A wall of mud and rocks collapsed into a river on the border between Nepal and Tibet. Impressive images. And what came next was a wave of mud coming down the mountain and swallowing everything in its path. Houses, roads, bridges, power plants, entire villages. The videos that surfaced today show dozens of people being swept away. I have to admit, I watched this twice and couldn't believe it, because it almost looks like a model, like a special effect from a movie, but it's not. I'm going to give you the numbers here, but with a caveat. They are changing by the hour, and when you watch this tomorrow morning or later, those numbers might already be higher. So far, the Nepal police have recovered 157 bodies. On the Chinese side, the government confirms 3 dead and more than 250 missing. And Nepal's Ministry of Tourism reported that 403 tourists are missing, 341 of whom are foreigners. Look at this impressive image, folks. There are people from at least 26 different countries on that list. According to the government of Nepal, more than 130 are Indians who were on a religious pilgrimage to Mount Kailash. I think that's how you pronounce the name there. There are Americans, Australians, British, Malaysians, Dutch, Portuguese, South Africans, and South Koreans among the names so far. There may be other nationalities as well. Just among Americans, there are at least 47. And there are also 28 police officers from Nepal who were on the list of missing people. They were there specifically to help rescue others. And on the Chinese side, the landslide hit the border crossing and cut off the road, power, and communication. The experts there say that the likely cause was a piece of glacier that broke off and blocked the river. The water got dammed up there, accumulated behind that blockage. And when it burst, everything came down at once, along with rocks and mud. And I keep thinking about something here, folks. We spend the whole day, right, talking about missiles, sanctions, blocked straits, and then nature comes and does this in 10 minutes with no warning at all. An earthquake here, a flood there, and now this whole mountain coming down on people who were just sightseeing. The world really is, honestly, out of control. And it's not just because of politics. No, this is real, folks. It doesn't look like it, right? If you look closely, it looks like a model, but it's not. This happened today. And now, let's go. I'll take you to our region because it was a busy day here too. In this live, I'll tell you what the American president said today. While you're watching these images, later I'll switch over to our ship tracking feed. President Trump spoke today about the Iranian supreme leader. And the information he shared is impressive and strong. I'll show you here the turnaround that happened in the Strait of Hormuz in the last 24 hours. After we finished our live, a lot of new things came up. And it wasn't good for those rooting for our side. I'll tell you what the Iranian state television did today against the son of the American president. And this has crossed every line once again. Remember when they did this to Trump's wife? Now they've done it with his son too. I'll tell you what's happening with fuel inside Iran because it's reached the red line. And in the end, I have the most important news of the week, and hardly anyone out there reported it or at least mentioned it. The American president is using nuclear technology as a bargaining chip to force Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel. This has his back on the agenda today. Live from Israel, right from where everything happens, organizing the chaos of information for you. Look at this impressive image, guys. Yeah, I was really shocked when I saw this. Seriously, I'm being honest with you. I've never seen anything like this before. Take a look. These images, local time, 11:41 p.m. Hit like now so you don't forget later. Check if your subscription is still active and turn on the notification bell, because this story takes a new turn almost every day. Let's start with what the American president said today, because there were 3 things in a row. The first is about the supreme leader of Iran, and that's what interested us the most here, right guys? He said he doesn't believe that Mustafa has been eliminated or was eliminated or killed. He said that he was seriously injured on the left side of his body and mentioned the arm and the leg, saying that the whole side was hit or that nothing works on that side anymore. And he added that if he really is dead, then they are putting on a very convincing act for the world. Because according to him, the people there keep talking about going back to talk to that man to receive his final blessing. Now, just look at how significant what Trump said is, right? The President of the United States is openly saying in an interview that the supreme leader of Iran is alive, injured, and probably in no condition to govern. Coming back here to our footage, and that the regime would be keeping up appearances to avoid opening a succession crisis. The second thing is about the Strait, and that's where he really boasted. Trump said that the mines have been removed and that the passage is open. He said that sometimes a drone appears or a missile is fired, but that the Strait is operating normally. And he gave numbers too. Yesterday, 10 million barrels passed through there, through this strait we are looking at. These images of airplanes are also in real time, okay? These here are the United States refueling planes. Right now, over there in the Gulf of Oman, probably escorting or trying to escort, ships passing through there. And the third thing, and the harshest of all, he stated, Trump, that last night 20 Iranian boats were destroyed. 20 Iranian speedboats. Look at that, last night, folks. Everyone thought the war was over, that nothing else was happening over there. And then Trump comes and says that 20 speedboats were destroyed there in the Strait of Hormuz early yesterday morning. He also said that American power, American financial power, is gigantic, and that this will lead to a huge victory over Iran. And he made it clear that there is no deadline for any of this, neither to confront Iran nor to return to the negotiating table. His words were that he is in no hurry at all. There's no reason to rush. And at the end of the day, he posted 2 words on social media. He made a post and wrote, "Mission accomplished," without explaining exactly which mission was accomplished. What mission is he referring to? Is it his dispute with Canada now, or the Strait of Hormuz? I don't know exactly. Nobody really understood that post. If this explanation here is helping you understand what the headline doesn't tell you, give it a thumbs up now. Go ahead and hit the like button. Give it a thumbs up. It only takes a second, guys. And now I need to give you the other half of this story, because it came just a few hours later. And this part is bad for those rooting for our side. Yesterday I explained it to you here. Actually, this morning. I explained to you that scheme over there in the Gulf of Oman with the ships exchanging cargo in the middle of the morning. Do you remember that I talked to you about this morning? I'm already losing track of time because sometimes I do live streams at 1 in the morning and my day is actually at night. I have my days and nights mixed up. Anyway, this morning we talked about this. And they used the southern route right along the coast of Oman. They used this part here, right? Let's put this one here. This one is better. The ships passed through here, as you can see. And there is even a little ship here. Look, stopped right here. Let's see what it is. Flag. China, I think it's China. Well, identify that flag there. No, it's not China. That's not China. Anyway, there's a ship here actually, a tugboat stopped here at this point, in the Strait of Hormuz. This route here, the south route, right along the coast of Oman. And today, there was a report saying that this here is over. According to this report, at Iran's request, Oman stopped helping the Americans on this route, and in the last 24 hours, no vessel has shown up through the Oman route. There's also a specific incident in this same report that says an Indian oil tanker turned around and went back the way it came after warning shots from the Revolutionary Guard Navy. All of this happened yesterday. And I also need to be transparent with you about this information. This came out through the regional monitoring channel, and there hasn't been any confirmation from any international agency or from the American side, because on the American side, they keep saying that everything is open and functioning normally. I'm bringing this up because it's too relevant to leave out. And I'm making it clear that this is still an unconfirmed single source report, that this passage was reportedly closed for more than 24 hours. And now I'm going to cross-check this report here with something I told you at the beginning of this live stream. Do you remember that the American president said today, actually last night, that 20 Iranian boats were destroyed? Now pay attention to the sequence of events. Something happened in those waters last night involving a small boat. And the next day, information comes out that the Oman route was empty and that the oil tanker turned around after a warning shot. That's why it's important for us to put together what comes out. It's not just a single report. There are several things you need to piece together and try to understand which side is telling the truth here. I can't say that one thing caused the other, and I'm not going to claim any of that. But I'll give you here the 2 ways to fit these pieces together, and you choose which one makes more sense to you. The first one, the Americans destroyed here in this region Revolutionary Guard boats because they were going after the ships that use the Oman route, which is the only way, apparently, to reach these ships. In this case, the route stopped for safety because there are boats there putting navigation at risk. Until things cool down, no ships will pass. The second option is that the guards headed out toward this Oman route precisely to avenge the boats that were destroyed and managed to scare that Indian ship, which turned around. In this case, the warning shot at the Indian oil tanker would be the Iranian response to the destruction of those boats, not the cause. I'm just trying to understand these versions here. In both versions, one thing is certain. Last night there was a confrontation in those waters. Trump himself already said it, and today things are different. And that's what I've been telling you since the beginning of this story. The Strait is neither open nor closed. It's being contested and changes hands throughout the night, hour by hour. And the Guard even released a statement talking about the Oman agreement. According to them, each side's share of the Strait's waters was defined, as well as the division of the revenue that comes from there. Now pay attention to what just happened. That smart solution I showed you yesterday didn't last long, did it? Putting one ship next to the other, the small ship passes by and the other receives the oil. And the reason for that, apparently, wasn't military, it was diplomatic. The small neighbor, Oman, gave in to the pressure from the big neighbor. This shows something I want you to understand about this region. Here, an alliance isn't a contract, folks. It's not a contract at all. It's a risk calculation that's redone every morning. Oman has almost 2,000 kilometers of coastline and an extremely complicated neighborhood. On one side, there's Yemen, right? The Houthis are very close to them, actually. And on the other side, there's Iran. It's a very complicated neighborhood. Oman's not going to fight alone against someone with missiles pointed at its city. And now, just look at the amount of conflicting stories there are about this strait right now. President Trump says the passage is open and that 10 million barrels went through yesterday. The Iranian army announced today that the waters of the strait is under the control of the Revolutionary Guard and said that there are no enemy warships in the Gulf region and that all of them are 400 kilometers away. And he also said, completing his statement, that from a military and geographical point of view, no ship can cross that strait without Iran's authorization and management. 3 versions on the same day about the same waters, and I'll tell you which one I believe and why. Which one do I think is the most believable? I go with satellite tracking, my friends, which doesn't give interviews and doesn't take sides. Tracking can't be faked, and what's happening there is happening at that exact moment. It was tracking that showed the 25 million barrels being transferred from ship to ship yesterday. And it was tracking that showed today the southern route also empty. This same route here, without any ships. Don't pay attention to the transponders, okay? These ships would pass through here, through this region, without transponders. They wouldn't be on like that. And for those who asked what's what here, the red dots are oil tankers. The green one is a cargo ship. Okay, they're cargo ships. The blue ones, I think they're passenger ships. And there are also fishing vessels here. There's another color for those. I'll try to find out more for you later, but the green and red ones are the ones I mentioned. If you want to know the truth about this war, you shouldn't look at what the governments are saying. You should look at where the ships are. And also the price of oil, right guys? The price of oil is the biggest indicator. It didn't drop for no reason. It dropped a lot. And it's still dropping, guys. The price of oil keeps falling. I think that's the biggest indicator. That means the oil has arrived. Now the oil is going out into the world. Look at that. $87. $87. 2 days ago, guys, 2 days ago, it was 92, 93. 2 days, it's already dropped to $87. It still hasn't reached the level it should, right? 70 something. Gasoline is still going to be expensive in your city, even here in Israel. It's not going to go down yet, for now. When it hits around 70 and stays there for a while, maybe then the price of gasoline will drop. And there was another statement. Coming from there today, the threat level kept rising on the Iranian side. Pay close attention. The Iranian deputy foreign minister made a direct provocation. He asked why, if the Americans clear the mines from the strait, they themselves don't cross through there. He said that only Iran knows the exact location of the mines in those waters and warned that if an American ship enters that region, it will be an excellent target for them. Then came the most serious part of his statement. He asked why Iran always has to wait for the United States to attack first and said that they could take that initiative. And he finished by warning that if American actions continue, Iran will reveal new capabilities. He has been saying this for a long time, right folks? Saying that they have some kind of new weapon that hasn't been used yet. For those who just arrived and forgot to leave a like, guys, go ahead and hit the like button on this video. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike too, that's fine. But doing nothing and not reacting to the video isn't cool, guys. Hit the like button to support the channel. The president of the Iranian parliament talked about the country's frozen funds abroad, Kalibaf. He said that if they can't get this money in cash, they will fight against the United States. By force, using force, actually attacking some target in the Middle East. And he demanded that the Iranian funds be in their accounts and under the control of their central bank. And there was something today that went beyond any limit. I need to tell you this, guys. Another line crossed by Iran. Iranian state television announced a reward of $10 million for the life of President Trump's youngest son. And it didn't stop at just the announcement. They showed information about his life, where he goes, the places he visits, and also about the places he frequents. The Secret Service is reportedly investigating this new threat. Remember, they have already threatened Trump's wife, and now they're threatening his son as well. I want you to take 5 seconds to think about what this means. It wasn't some obscure channel on the internet or someone making a new AI-generated video online. No, it also wasn't a guy in a mosque talking. It was the official state television putting a price on the head of the American president's son on air, live. And the guy there doesn't hold any position, folks. He doesn't decide anything at all. He didn't sign sanctions against anyone. His crime, if you can call it that, is being born into the Trump family. That's it. And this is where the mask really falls off. A regime that does this isn't conducting foreign policy and isn't seeking an agreement. Remember, they also tried to eliminate Netanyahu's son, right? He himself has already made this public, that they tried to eliminate Netanyahu's son. And now there's this bounty on Trump's son's head. The regime is doing what it's been doing since 1979, but this time with the camera on and the price on the screen. If anyone still had doubts about what kind of people the world is dealing with, I hope those doubts are dead now once and for all. What does he have to do with this whole story, right guys? Now let's look inside Iran, because today a number came out that explains all this Iranian nervousness, this desperation and these threats. An agency linked to the Iranian opposition published that the use of strategic emergency fuel reserves, that is, gasoline, has reached the red line. And the warning is this: if the consumption rate continues as it is, these reserves will be depleted in a few weeks. When that happens, the government loses the ability to compensate for the lack of fuel at gas stations, and then transportation across the entire country collapses. And there's a detail in this news that's pure gold for understanding the regime. According to that same agency, there's an internal conflict happening right now. On one side, there are people in the government who want to keep using the emergency reserves to keep the situation under control, and on the other, people from the Revolutionary Guard who are against spending those reserves. And why is the Revolutionary Guard against it? Because strategic fuel reserves aren't meant to fill up citizens' cars. They're meant to supply tanks, fighter jets if they have them, and ships in a war. That's it. That's what an emergency reserve is for in this case, in that country. In other words, while the government wants to use the fuel to avoid social chaos, the Guard wants to save it for the next round of attacks. That's the whole fight of the Iranian regime, summed up in a tank of gasoline. Meanwhile, the lines over there keep going all over the country. I saw several images today of huge lines in Iran, including Tehran. Guys, it's lines in Russia, lines in Iran, lines for gasoline. And that's why the Americans sent a message to their allies this week. They warned that the current phase is economic and that no new attacks are planned for now, according to what Marco Rubio also told Israel. There's no forecast of any attack. When the other side says that, I even raise an eyebrow, like, is that really what they want? Anyway, never mind, let's see if anything happens, right? But for now, no new attacks are planned. Today, time is on the side of those applying pressure, because this economic part is working in one way or another. No, it's not going to bring down the regime, but it's working. And now I'm going to give you 3 quick news updates that wrap up the week, and then the most important one of all. The first one is right next door, and it's good for us. The Americans have started to normalize their diplomatic missions in the Middle East, and Israel is on that list. The people who had been evacuated during the war started to come back, and I already explained to you in yesterday's video what this means. No government sends diplomats back to a place where they believe a missile will fall tomorrow. But there's also a practical effect to this that almost nobody talks about. A full embassy means having people closely monitoring Hezbollah, putting pressure on Hamas, pressuring the Lebanese government, and coordinating with Israel on a daily basis. A diplomat is also a tool of war, and that tool is back on the table now. The second piece of news is also important, and it redraws the map of our northern neighbor. The commander of the Kurdish forces in Syria announced the end of that force as an independent military organization. Do you remember that, guys? It's over. It's finished. Their fighters are being incorporated into the Syrian army. That means the Syrian government, the current Syrian government, now takes control of the northeast of the country, which had been out of its reach for years. And I'll give you the 2 ways to look at this, because both exist. The optimistic way is this: a country with only one army is just more predictable, and it's easier to negotiate a security agreement with it, right? So I'd be negotiating a security agreement with Syria. And then there's the warring way, which I think is more likely. Those Kurds were exactly the force that was holding back ISIS in that region and guarding the prisons holding captured ISIS terrorists. Changing who does this job in the middle of everything that's happening, guys, is extremely risky. Remember, there are still a lot of ISIS terrorists in prison. The third piece of news is small in size but big in meaning. The US Treasury has classified a British group called Palestine Action as a global terrorist organization. This is the group that became known for breaking into and sabotaging during the war facilities of an Israeli defense company in the United Kingdom. Do you remember that? They spray painted, broke things, and set fires. With this classification, their assets under US jurisdiction are frozen and financial transactions are restricted. And look at the precedent this sets. Activism that wrecks factories and sabotages military equipment is no longer treated as protest and is now treated as terrorism, with consequences in the financial system. I hope that one day real activists like those from the flotillas, will also be treated as terrorists, because that's what they are. Whoever finances this kind of group around the world probably read this news today with concern. And now let's move on to the most important news of the week, the one that almost no one in Brazil has shown yet. The American president sent the Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement with Saudi Arabia to Congress. This agreement allows American companies to export nuclear technology there to Saudi Arabia, and it provides for the construction of reactors in the kingdom. And the contract is a contract, guys. It's for 30 years, and it's worth tens of billions of dollars. But what matters isn't the money, it's the condition that came along for this to actually happen. The American president made it very clear, a long time ago, that this agreement only goes into effect if Saudi Arabia recognizes Israel and joins the Abraham Accords. And he had already said weeks ago that there will be no uranium enrichment at all in Saudi Arabia, and that the agreement is completely conditioned on the Saudis joining those accords. Now let me explain to you the magnitude of this move, because it's smarter than it seems. Saudi Arabia has wanted nuclear energy for years, and for two reasons. The first is economic. They burn oil to generate electricity, and every barrel burned at home is a barrel that can't be sold abroad. And the second reason is their neighbor. They don't want to be the only major country in the region without a nuclear option, with Iran on the other side of the Gulf. They don't want that. So American nuclear technology is exactly what they want most right now. And President Trump took exactly that small item, right, extremely important, and made it the price. The message is clear. You want a nuclear reactor, you sign a peace deal with Israel. And look at the timing when this was done. The Iranian regime isn't exporting oil without money and with lines at gas stations. Qatar lost $24 billion in gas sales, and now with everyone on the other side weakened, that's when the Americans put recognition of Israel on the table for the Saudis. Honestly, I really don't know if the Saudis are going to accept this proposal, and I'm not going to pretend I know, because it's hard to know what's coming from the other side. They keep repeating that they will only recognize Israel with a clear path to a Palestinian state, and that position hasn't changed to this day. Maybe again, the Palestinian state will be created in the Gaza Strip, and that could solve their demand. And the US Congress has 90 days to review this agreement, so this won't be resolved tomorrow. But the outline of the move is on the table, and it goes like this. While the Iranian axis shrinks, and it is shrinking, the Americans are trying to tighten the noose from the other side, with alliances, with agreements, and with recognition. Now, what about Iran? Is it still getting oil out? Of course they are, right guys? There's still oil coming out through Iran. There's oil coming out across the border here from Pakistan itself. There's oil coming out up here in the Caspian Sea. And remember, this exists here. Look, Iran can get oil out through its borders. But the amount isn't, not even close, not even in their dreams, to the amount that would come out here through the Hormuz Strait. So slowly, they start to feel the impact of this blockade and of this economic blockade. Look at the intense movement of the refueling planes right at this moment here, right? Orbiting in this region, look at that. That's what it's called, orbiting, right? A follower here sent this to me on the channel, and we learn from others too. And orbiting and maintaining security. In other words, there is already military movement in the region. Maybe they're destroying a few more boats, but this time without media coverage of what's happening in the Middle East. And now I'm going to finish here with today's Hebrew word. Pay attention. En shlita. En shlita. En shlita. and shlita. It means without control. And it's the expression that sums up today from beginning to end. Out of control means a mountain collapsing on a tourist who was on a trip right there in that region without control. It's narrow, it opens in the morning and closes at night, depending on who pressured, which neighbor, and without control. It's a country that's on top of one of the largest energy resources on the planet, and its gas stations are running out of fuel. And in the middle of all this, there are people sitting at a table trying to draw the map for the next 30 years. Human beings still think they are in control of the board. And every now and then the mountain comes down and reminds us that that's not how it works. And I'm still here from the mountains of Judea, sifting through every piece of this story in 4 languages to get to you before it becomes a twisted headline out there, right, on your side. And you end up understanding this differently. If you've made it this far, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share this live with your family group. Because anything serious can happen at any moment, and I can go live at any time. Thank you, Silvana, for the super sticker. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. In Shilita, I put all these Hebrew expressions in the video description, okay? So you just need to go back to the description and you'll see the Hebrew expression and the transliteration there, showing how it's pronounced in Portuguese. Hugs to all my friends in Israel and see you in the next live.